let
Yeah.
alone, the trials and the things. And plus, we don't want to remember those things because they seem so hard and seem so difficult. But when you really go back over it, plus you can look for themes. If you have a recurring pattern, a recurring pain point, it will be really good to find that out and to try to deal with it better. It's like it keeps coming up. You keep
Right.
writing about something that's so similar over all the passages collectively. You really need to pull that out and to try to deal with it or tackle it or
Right.
make sure that you can write about it in a way that was successful the next time you confront it.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to help our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. And we appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you. And thank you for being on our journey towards that more audacious life. Now, on this episode of the podcast, we'll be talking the topic of muscular dystrophy, and living with muscular dystrophy and pursuing your passion is like sailing through stormy seas with unwavering determination, always striving towards a horizon despite the fierce waves that try to push you back. Tracee Garner's story exemplifies resilience and strength in the face of adversity, and she's today's guest. Certainly a true inspiration for all of us. As an African American woman living with muscular dystrophy, she uses a wheelchair for mobility. She's a prolific author, speaker, and an advocate for individuals who live with disabilities. Encouraging others, really, she's all about encouraging others to overcome barriers and pursue their dreams. That's exactly what Tracee has done on her journey of overcoming challenges and embracing her passion. Again, despite living with muscular dystrophy pretty much entire life. She, again, the themes of resiliency and determination are embodied in just her daily living, and will shine through in today's episode. So without any further ado, here's our chat with Tracee. Hey, Tracee, thank you for joining me today here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's great for you to make the time like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Audley. It's great to be here.
Yeah, no,
Appreciate
it's,
it.
it's again, I take such pleasure in enjoying being able to connect with individuals from all over, and we spend on this podcast spend so much time talking about that best audacious life, and how individuals can go after the things that they're meant to, and regardless sort of what's in front of them,
Mhm.
obstacles, challenges, all these things, because it's a part of life, and we know this.
That's right.
Um, and certainly, your sort of adversity is clear as well, and you certainly have become an author and you speaker, and you're really encouraging individuals as well to push past those limits, to push past that boulder in our pathway on our journey to that greatness. So maybe as a starting point, I can get you to fill in our audience on a little bit about yourself and what got you to this point.
Sure, sure. My name is Tracy Lydia Garner. I'm a middle-aged African American woman who happens to have a disability called muscular dystrophy, and I use a wheelchair every day to get around
Mhm.
for my mobility and to go places. And I was diagnosed at age 2 with that, and I've been dealing with it ever since. And I have written 20 books, almost 21,
Wow.
as you mentioned, and I love writing. Writing was a wonderful thing to kind of help me when I got to college. I had a little bit of depression and still deal with that somewhat, but still, loving life and carrying through and facing my bouts of adversity that honestly really only come around when there is a huge barrier. There are mental
Mhm.
barriers, physical barriers, and then, outside external things that you have to confront. But I've been
Right.
doing that for over 45 years now, and so you just really learn to deal with it. But I'm from the DC area in Northern
Mhm.
Virginia, and I live there with my family, and just love talking about writing, encouraging everyone really to write a story, write their story, to leave a legacy for their family and close friends. But also, finishing a book isn't really about just finishing a book. It's about the time and energy that you have to take to get those
Yes.
words out on
Yeah.
paper. And having written 20 of them, it's never easy. Each time I go through it, I'm like, oh my God, why did I decide to do this? But writing is a passion of mine that I love talking about to whoever is willing and open to listen. And it's also part mental health. It's good to journal, and I
Yeah.
don't journal all the time, but I do it. I do like monthly reflections because I'm writing all the time. That was like a happy medium for myself. It's just a journal about how the month went and any things I want to remember, any milestones
Gotcha.
I hit. And that can be encouraging when you read back over it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can learn lessons about yourself. I think
Absolutely.
what's interesting when you have that journal that allows you to reflect,
Hmm.
particularly on your journey, right, and where you've come from. Because if you're able to see, how far you've come from and what you endured, the next obstacle you come into, you're like, yeah, I've done this
Hmm.
before, right? And sometimes you can
Definitely.
remember it, sometimes we can, and that's why the journaling is helpful.
Yeah, we have such a short memory. Trust me, we can barely remember last week or what we had for dinner, let
Yeah,
alone, the trials and the things. And plus, we don't want to remember those things because they seem so hard and seem so difficult. But when you really go back over it, plus you can look for themes. If you have a recurring pattern, a recurring pain point, it'll be really good to find that out and to try to deal with it better. It's like it keeps coming up. You keep
right.
writing about something that's so similar over all the passages collectively. You really need to pull that out and to try to deal with it or tackle it or
Right.
make sure that you can write about it in a way that was successful the next time you confront it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and again, there's much value in that journaling or that writing process.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I wonder if you should talk about your MS journey, if you will, because muscular dystrophy it doesn't necessarily impact everyone the exact same way, nor
Right.
does it impact everyone at the exact same stage of their lives. And
Hmm.
in your case, you were 2 years old, so it's something that you've lived with, whereas adults could be affected and it's new to them, and so I don't know if you could sort of talk about sort of what that journey was for you.
Sure. The journey was for me is that ever since I was a child, my parents, I had a dad who was a Baptist preacher for most of my life. He was ordained in 1971 when I got here in 76. That was our life going to church and just being faithful. And I think that really instilled in me. He's passed away since then, but just my parents' faith and not treating me any differently. I tell everyone there was an incident where I didn't want to fold like these washcloths or these towels as a child. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, these are too big. I don't want to do it. And I just could have gotten a pass. And my mom was like, really? You don't want to do this? Is this too hard for you? And she pulled out like all the washcloths, which were much smaller, much easier to handle. And I was in charge of the washcloth lady, honestly. That was my task. That was what I had to do. But I use that as an illustration because most parents, they're like, okay, don't do that. Like, don't do it at all,
Mm,
right? They just give up and they don't let people do anything. Their children, don't, they just say, okay, we'll find something else. But my mother, right then and there, was like, you're not getting out of this. Everybody's doing something.
right,
We're all sitting
right.
here folding. We're all
Yep.
contributing to, the household chores. Do the washcloths, and those are small for my little hands. And I honestly probably could have folded the towels. I just didn't want to, and it was a way to try to get out of it. But just that was like
Right,
our mantra for life. Like,
right.
we're going to find alternative ways for you to still do things,
Hmm.
but you're not getting out of it completely. And I'm
Hmm.
so thankful for that as an adult. Hated it as a child. Like, why do I have to do this? I don't want to let me watch cartoons. Like, go away. But just now, I'm able to see how important that was, just because to continue to use the muscles, continue to do, what
Yes.
I can, contribute whatever I can, whether that's setting the table on my hands and knees. They put all the forks in a pile, all the
Yep.
plates and the napkins, and I just go around and, put everything in the proper place. Like, that is so mundane and seems very minuscule, but it's huge because I'm contributing. Nobody's frowning upon me. My older brother, who probably thought, I was a brat and, got everything I want because I had a disability, there was no opportunity for anybody to think that because I was still doing stuff. So
Right.
you have to be careful too about, when you're a child, creating little parts or components of people to be angry at you or feel like you're not
Yes.
pulling your weight. You never want siblings, especially, to have any animosity about, what the other siblings are doing. Everybody has to do something and contribute something. And I think that's just been kind of, like a marquee for our life and for how my parents treated me. And I think that really set the foundation. Of course, I'm not able to do everything everybody
Sure.
else can,
Sure.
but just contributing something is really,
Yes.
really important. Something that I wish more parents would push their children with special needs, push their children with disabilities to do stuff.
As opposed to just giving them a pass and go, it's okay, you can't,
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah.
let you. And there's so much to be said about that because what I'm hearing from you is that inclusivity piece, right? Keeping people
Hmm.
involved,
Definitely.
contributing is huge. Like the sense of value you have because you feel like you're
Yes.
contributing to something. So if the mission tonight is dinner for everyone, well, you're
Hmm.
part of that process. You're part of feeding everyone because you set
Yes.
the table.
That's right. That's right. And actually now I cook. I mean, I wasn't cooking then, but the other component of that that's really important, not just about the family unit and everybody having something to do, but my muscles, right? Just little small dexterity, pulling, pinching. We're talking about a muscle disease that makes your muscles weaker over time. That's what muscular dystrophy is. And you said MS, but a lot of people get those confused. MS is multiple sclerosis,
So
and MD is muscular dystrophy. I
yeah,
just want to make that
my
clarification.
correction.
But
Sorry, yes, you're correct. Yeah,
everybody does it. Trust
yeah,
me. Everybody says MD, MS. They're interchangeable, but
yep.
they're very different in this, as far as their effect on people. And
Hmm.
most people are not born with MS. You actually get that. It's more of like a central nervous system, I
Yep.
believe, issue. But my point is just to keep the muscles prevailing,
Yes.
throughout your entire life. And to get a pass means that you're sitting around, you're wasting away. We're
Right.
talking about lungs, we're talking about breathing, we're talking
Yes.
about lifting, reaching, pulling, pushing. So all those things are so important. I really don't think people realize the correlation. And I have a lot of friends that have died, in their 30s. My best friend died in 2019. She was 46, I believe.
Hmm.
And so just thinking about that, thinking about what they did or didn't do as a child, could there have been something to preserve their
Gotcha.
abilities? And some people are going to think that that seems enablest, but it's not at all. It's like, just like we do preventative medicine,
Yes.
there
Yes.
are
Yes.
precautions that we can take with our people. And I wish I had it done even more. I used to
Hmm.
swim as a
Yep.
child. I had physical therapy, and as you get older and you start working so much, those things fall off. But I would have wished I had kept my hydrotherapy going, just to
Hmm.
be even stronger and to be even more limber. So those are the
Hmm.
things that's my messaging to people, about preserving things and
Yep.
about helping people,
Well,
is
I
you
certainly I think
got to
that's
do it.
yeah, it's an important message. I was going to say it's really important that you're able to continue to contribute. We were talking about contribute and how important and valuable that is. And I didn't even think about sort of the long term impacts of not being an active contributor and what that can and the effects
Mhm.
it can have. And I think that's an important point. I'm glad that you raised that. You sort of talked about earlier about going through bouts of depression. What was the contributing factor for you? What was happening in those situations?
I think it was opportunities where I didn't like know something. The first part of that started in college. K through 12, I'm just going to say I know it's hard for people
Hmm.
in K through 12. School has changed significantly since I was in school, and I would agree that it was hard. There's puberty, there's dating, relationships,
Right.
and getting through your academic coursework. But I kind of sailed through K through 12. I was pretty much an average student, but I
Okay.
was, popular and well liked. But when you get out of that little fishbowl and into college, it's like a whole different ball
Right.
game. And
Right.
so I had to confront math for liberal arts. Okay. Math for liberal arts seems like it should be math for creative types, and
Mm,
it's just not. It's still real math. I failed it. That was my first thing. first big thing I'd ever really failed, and I had to take it again. And now, you have tutors and you have things that can help you. But I just felt very isolated and alone in college.
Right.
Campus was largely inaccessible to me.
Mm,
Long, passages between from one class on one side of the campus all the
right.
way till the other side of the campus. I wasn't driving in my first years of college. I do drive now, but so I wasn't driving. Just me in my wheelchair, trying to do the academics, trying to make friends. I actually broke the axle of my wheelchair on one of the campuses because it was so inaccessible. That
Mm.
was, annoying and painful, and also caused me to lose, use of my wheelchair for like a
Sure.
week while they fixed it. And so
Which
just
is like the
all these
equivalent of like
little
your
things.
legs, right? Because the wheelchair is essentially your
Absolutely.
legs. Right.
Totally
Right.
my legs. And I wish more people could understand that. When my
Right.
chair is broke down, I'm sitting on my bed
Right.
and just waiting. Give me the laptop, give me,
Right.
whatever, but
Right.
still just cannot get around even my house. So all those things kind of contributed to just feeling alone and did like I didn't have any support. I didn't have a network. You really need a network of people, friends, family, and also, getting the help. My parents weren't necessarily able to afford tutors and things like
Right.
that. And now
Right.
tutors are free, especially in community college. I
Mm.
got a tutor for free when I got out of the 4 year college and
Hmm.
went to a smaller school for a couple years to finish my degree. And I was like, wow, free tutors?
Right.
They're just all the AP and all the really, really smart kids
Right.
teaching all the other people like me,
Right.
who have math for liberal arts problems. So I think that was mostly the culmination. And also getting older, having been diagnosed at 2 years old, that's all you know. So it's much
Right.
more a part of you. I would dare even say it's a little bit easier because it's all you ever known. But then you
Right.
get to college and you want to try to have, a boyfriend, you want to do well in your academics, and you don't have those things. They're not as easily attainable in
Yes.
college. And it's just so many things coming at you. So I would say all of that contributed to that. But the one silver lining of that is I did enter the writing contest that would give me a book deal while I was in college.
Okay.
And so
Wow.
that really turned things around because I ended up winning the grand prize for the writing contest. I got a trip to New York and I got a monetary advance. And I just got the prestige and the validation that my writing
Sure.
is good and that people like it. So when that happened, that was like finding purpose, like kind of an aha moment that there's other things you
Yes.
could do, even if you
Yes.
don't make it through college, which I didn't think I was going to make it, but I did because I
Wow.
won the contest. That gave me like a boost.
Oh yeah, I can see that where you're just like you're
My,
inspired
yeah,
now, right?
definitely. And I think it wasn't even so much that my writing was so spectacular. It's just that somebody showed that they had a little bit belief in me that
Mm.
you could do this. Like, I know you're failing your academics, but you're a writer, shine in writing.
Right.
And so I wish everyone was able to find their purpose and passion. I had passion for
Yep.
writing. I
Yep.
used to I joke that I'm the reason they charge 10 cents a page on college campuses right now. And it's probably up to 15. Or you probably have to have some kind of card that you go to the printer and like
Yeah.
swipe it just so you
Yeah.
can print out what you want. But back then in the computer lab, nobody has a computer lab anymore
Yeah.
because everybody's
Right.
got a laptop and a phone and a
Yeah.
tablet.
Yeah.
But I had a computer lab and I would go and print out like 100 sheets, and everybody would gather around the printer like, what's taking so long? Who's hogging the printer? And I would go there too, right? And sit there from my wheelchair and be like, I don't know what's going on. Like, who's doing
As,
that?
as you're
And
collecting your papers.
yes, well, as they all ran back to print their work again because
Yeah.
it didn't come, I would take off my big stack and like run away, like I don't know who took all those paper, and then the
That's
paper needed to
funny.
be uploaded again. But but that's what I had. I didn't have a printer at home. I had a computer, but I had no real way to print everything. So I would take my little thumb drive to school
Right.
and print stuff, and that was exciting and fun. And but again, probably why they charge now for paper so you don't hog it like I did. I owe the school probably about, 500 to $1,000 in paper reams.
That's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's
Yep.
funny. But I do, I certainly do appreciate your points around finding passion and purpose,
Yes.
particularly through difficult and hard times. Um, the reality is that we're all going to experience some form of adversity, and it's not going to be the same for everyone. Your
Hmm.
experience is very different from mine, obviously. But I think the key in this is that what we're going through while we're going through, understanding that there's a higher purpose, or there's a higher place that we need to get to, or we have that passion that we can fall back on.
Hmm.
um so and it's great to hear that writing was yours. Was there anything else, or was it just we were just a focused writer?
Not really. I wouldn't call myself a focus writer at all, but just everything that, Matthew, I think it's 24 about the parable of the talents is like
Mm,
one of my favorite scriptures because out of writing was born other talents. So I took that one talent of writing, cultivated it, and then also used it to make more money. There's writing, there's the speaking, there's teaching. I taught
right.
at the community college I graduated from for 15 years as an adjunct professor. I mean, talk about full circle to be taking classes there to really find my writing and then come back and teach that to other, aspiring writers. And then I do some grant writing, on the side. I have other classes that I'm teaching. And then there are other books. I've written a couple books for writers. So not just the
Right.
fiction and the romantic suspense, but the actual nonfiction. I have a book of inspiration that's called Pack Light Thoughts for the Journey. So just, being able to parlay
Yes.
one little thing, the writing, into all these other things would also be my other message. It's just you can do so much. Like you've probably, you have the podcast, and out of that is born, other guests, other
Sure.
connections, and other monetary pursuits. And so that's what I really think about. It's not just the writing. It's so much more
Where it
that
can
you
go
can
to.
do
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
all of it. Yeah.
And that's sort of the beautiful part of the journey, right? Where you go into something that maybe at the beginning you weren't sure about. Let's use writing example. Maybe you weren't sure if you would like it. You don't know if you're good at it. Sometimes that
Hmm.
imposter syndrome comes up and you question your
Yes.
ability and all that kind of stuff. But you go anyways, and you take
That's
that
right.
step, and then that's where it gets exciting because, as you mentioned, there's different pathways and things that it can lead to. And so, I think for me, what I encourage as much as possible is for people to take that first step. Yes, you're scared. Yes, you're not sure. You have no idea where it's going to go to. Take that step anyways, because you never
Hmm.
know where it'll end up. That's what I would say.
That's right. And you never know the people that you'll meet, and you'll never know who you encourage.
Yes.
That people write me having read my books, and I print them out and I have like an inspiration file of just really good things that people have said about the stories, how they've been touched. That is so encouraging. And like you said, I never thought that I would write more than like 5 or 6 books. I was like, okay, let me just try this. Seems to be going pretty good. People enjoy it. But to come up with idea after idea, I'm on my 21st book right now and trying to finish it. And all those things come back on the fear, the not sure
Sure.
you can do this. How can you do this for the 21st time? Oh my God. And then I have 9 book ideas, that are all at different stages
Yep.
waiting their turn. And you just never think that you can have longevity in certain areas that you decide to pursue, but you
Right.
can totally.
Right. Right. And so these books are, some are fiction, some are not. Some are what you like. It's a wide array. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mostly write romantic suspense. That's my
Okay.
favorite. I love car chases and things blowing up, a little murder, a little mystery, a little baby mama drama, but just a happily ever after always
Sure.
in my romance fiction. And then I just have like 4 or 5 books that I've written, for authors that are trying to break into the biz, kind of what to do. And so some like self-help inspirational books for authors, aspiring authors, and
Yep.
those on the journey of writing their first book. And then just the inspirational Pack Light Thoughts for the Journey, Volume 1, just has like 7 stories of things that like I write a story about something that I overcame. One thing was like embracing things you don't like about you, embracing your unfavorites,
Important.
I call them. And
Mm.
then at the end of each chapter, there's a little journaling prompt where I ask like 5 or 6 questions, and then you can respond to them. It's kind of a journal light, I call it,
Yeah.
because it's for people who hate journaling and who
Yes.
can't really journal on a blank page. But if you were going to answer some questions, soon you would see that it just starts flowing because you have that prompt. So, and I'm working on volume 2 of Pack Light. Another thing for Pack Light is, is just making sure that, a workplace bullying incident that I had.
Okay.
Workplace bullying is even worse.
Wow.
And the only reason it's worse is because they're adults and they
Yes.
have a bigger vocabulary and more tools at their
Yes.
disposal to bully you
Yes.
with.
Yes.
So I talk about that and how I overcame that, and just a couple other stories for different things that I use and to
No,
help.
it's amazing, and I do. I'm a big fan of the encouragement piece, obviously, and so
Mhm.
to know that you're taking even life experiences or your own situation to apply those to encourage others. So you talked earlier about you never know who you're going to impact, right? And I think that's
Right.
the value in us sharing our stories, and so I
Mhm.
appreciate hearing that from you. I wonder if you sort of talk about. I know as a society, we're talking a lot more about things like inclusivity
Mhm.
and really being and sort of opening up, so to speak, to bear in mind others and the things that are unique to them and their
Right.
issues and being mindful. As a society, I know it's a big question, but in terms of from a disability standpoint, where are we or how are we doing with this people with disabilities and their specific and unique needs?
Yeah, I think we're doing better, and I would say we're always going to be doing better. I think. Are we doing the best? Of course not. But things are getting better only because of the sheer number of increasing people with different, abilities,
Right.
with physical and mental health. All these topics are being brought to the forefront as more people, go through them. And
Hmm.
so, while that's a good thing, we shouldn't have had to wait for more people to kind of
Right.
experience the things that they do, in order for people. We all should be outraged, when someone can't participate or can't have access. The problem has been that we wait till people who are in a position of power, when they can't have
Mm.
access, then they become indignant. And I'm kind of sitting back like, oh, where have you been?
Right.
This has been the status quo for some time, but because it's happening to you, now you have, you care. And so I think that that can be problematic. I'm
Right.
still grateful for them because I want everybody to have all the experiences and then fix all the things that are wrong.
Right.
But we can't wait. Someone who needs access right now can't wait till someone's daughter, someone
Right.
in a position of power's daughter, also needs that same access. We should just be willing to, accommodate and to
Right.
think of things. And I would just say that half the stuff that people with disabilities use, everybody else likes. The extra wide bathroom, the delivery man, the pregnant woman is using the ramps. You have a bag of groceries in your hand, you push the automatic door button with your elbow. All of these things everybody enjoys and everybody needs. So why is there such pushback
Right.
when, you should just make it universal, or you should be building it from the ground up,
Right.
with all these amenities and all these accommodations in place. And it's
Mm.
so much more cheaper to build it with it than
Right.
to make it inaccessible and then tear it down and
That's
redo
right.
it.
That's right.
So it's like these lessons just they're abundant, but they're not learned. They're
Gotcha.
just kind of a wait until someone really needs it, and then, oh, fix, 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 or
Gotcha.
redo.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, so we have some ways to go, but I'm encouraged for two things. One, that the emoters, I don't know what do we call them after Gen Z. I'm always confused. And I always forget what generation I
Millennials.
am. I think I'm Y or Z or something. So I'm not Gen Z. I'm X or Y. But the questioning generation. But
Yeah.
I'm encouraged because the younger people have
Nice.
more people with
Right.
disabilities in their classrooms.
Right.
So
Right.
that's why I'm encouraged, is because I was, more so isolated and almost segregated. I had
Mm.
to be bused to school. I didn't go to school in my neighborhood, and we're not doing that anymore, which means youth and, elementary school children get to see disability in their classmate.
Right.
And that
Right.
is good because
Yeah.
there's no us in them.
That's correct. Yep.
And they're also working harder to make accommodations.
Yep.
Little Steven has autism. We all got together and created like a sensory
Right.
concert night, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
they're doing that and they're thinking about that already.
Yes.
Whereas our generation a little bit was to kind of like, oh, they're over there,
Right.
they're with their own
Yeah.
kind,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
put away. And that also meant that they couldn't deal with and they weren't creative. We weren't creative enough to come up with ways to
Right.
be
Yep.
more
Yep.
inclusive.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so I'm glad about that.
Yep. I think, I mean, for me, when you start talk about the separation, because there's so much harm in that, right? There's so much,
Hmm.
and what it can do, and the havoc it can create. And so when you create a more inclusive environment
Hmm.
and people are allowed to mix, if you will, right?
Right,
Whereas
right.
that
God
wasn't the
forbid.
case before. It does so much wonders. It increases perspective. It provides opportunities for empathy.
Hmm.
It
Yes,
creates awareness. There are just
right.
so many positive things, and at the same time, there's something that can be learned from
Hmm.
others as well. And so, um, it's like on a totally different but similar in some respects. My for many years, my son played on team sports. He played
Hmm.
basketball, and there
Hmm.
were some teams that he played on where he was a top player, and other teams where he wasn't, didn't get to
Right.
get on the floor. But having those different experiences
Yes.
allowed him to have empathy and know what it's
Hmm.
like, and
Hmm.
and and increases overall awareness and understanding. And so, not exactly
Yes.
the same, but the principles are very, very
Yeah.
similar in what we do in terms of increasing our own perspective.
Yeah, and being part of a team and
Yeah.
learning patience.
Yep.
Patience and tolerance are key for me because so many older generations lack it. They don't
Right.
have time, in the classroom. Students were at one point in time in my class, they might have got impatient. Why do we have to slow down class just because
Right.
so and so
Right.
doesn't
Right.
understand the concepts when there are actually more kids now that also need that slowing down, even though they or their parents are not willing to admit it. Like all the alternative ways of learning that we've implemented for different learners is
Yes.
only a good thing, right?
Yeah.
There is no detriment, and everybody has to develop their own patience and tolerance in order to wait for that. And
Mhm.
there may be some ideas that they could come up with that will enhance. I mean, look at the 3D printers, prosthetics,
Yeah.
and there was someone on the news, years ago where the whole school or like the whole class created a way for this person to be able to come up with a 3D hand. And
Mm.
granted, it is not going to be something that they should be lifting,
Sure.
maybe a baby with or, doing,
Right.
but at least can they grasp a pencil?
Yeah.
Can they do something that will help them be more inclusive?
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
have to cost, $50,000 when all they want to do is have the little hand to write a
Yep.
sentence.
Yep.
And so just thinking about making things more accessible and also the cost. How can
Yeah.
we lower costs and make it accessible right now? And
Right.
that's what I'm
Right.
encouraged by the students are doing for each other. You know,
Mm.
in the past, you just, nope, it costs $50,000. I guess you'll never get it.
Right.
The
Right.
insurance
Right.
won't pay for it. And then the kids now rallying together to say,
How can
this
we
is
do
an
this happen?
issue. How can we
Yeah.
fix it? We're going to fix
Yeah.
it for our friend,
I love it. I
and
love.
not,
Well.
and there's no, but they would never know that that child needed that if the child was somewhere else in a
Exactly.
self-contained class with
Exactly.
just their other peers who had other disabilities like them. They
Yeah.
would
No.
never have that opportunity.
I absolutely loved, in those instances we see people rally around a cause or an
Hmm.
instance, and it's like, how do we solve this problem right now?
Yes. Yeah.
So it is. I'm also quite encouraged, as you are. And so as a disability advocate, this is some of the things that you are dealing with. I'm imagining. Are there any, I don't know, significant or major wins that you've had as a through your work, or anything that you've seen that you're encouraged by?
Well, my work, in my actual job is focused on individual support.
Okay.
So a
Yeah.
lot of one-to-ones. We are doing some group work
Okay.
coming up soon where we're hoping, people in a group setting can help each other solve their problems, whether that be housing, getting on Social Security if they need that, or finding employment and what they did. So there's good things in sharing
Hmm.
But oddly, I win every day. That's what I tell myself.
I love it.
I got up and, got dressed. My caregiver came on time, which is always a wonderful thing,
Yeah.
because it happens so often that sometimes they don't. But just you have to count even the smallest, what might seem small to others. You have to count those as wins. You survived the day, you got through it, you had a kind word for other people, you felt good about yourself,
Yes.
all those things. And so every day that you confront the day is absolutely a win.
Love it.
And you just have to, of course, there are milestones and things that I can celebrate. Getting
Sure.
somebody transportation, getting someone employment is obviously a win because it's so hard when you
Hmm.
have multiple disabilities sometimes. And it's not even hard because of you, it's be hard because of the barriers people put up because
Right.
they're in a position of power to do so. And so that's
Yeah.
something else I wish people could understand. Like there are gatekeepers who can hire people, but they just refuse to. And
Right.
that's a tough situation because that requires a mind change, and you can't always change people's minds
Yep.
per se. So yeah, so every day you make it, every day you get up and you articulate and get along with other humans is a win.
Love it. I love it. Winning every day. That's awesome.
That's
That's
right.
awesome. Curious, from your perspective, as a Black woman, and then the challenges and your disability. Is there any uniqueness from a disability standpoint that you've got to face or deal with?
Yeah, but what's interesting about, just the intersectionality, that's
Uh
when
huh.
all of these different things meet, black, disabled, and a woman, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
you don't know which one people are holding against you. So
Mm,
it's kind of like, hey, pick one, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, like I don't care, and you have to kind of develop that attitude because there will be something, there will be one of
right.
those things.
Right.
Even being like somewhat overweight is can also be
Hmm.
something that people are judging you on. And at the end of the day, you just have to not care. You just have to kind of still show up,
I love it.
because there could be any number of things that people hold against you. Could be, because you're a bald man, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't like baldies,
Hmm.
today. So it just really, it could literally be anything. And you can focus on that and worry about that. What I will say is that as I'm getting older, recently I almost was going to transition in my job, and I really had to consider that and pray about it because now I feel more ageism is a thing than disability, blackness, or even being a
Right.
woman. We
Right.
are so, because of what's going on politically,
Yep.
people are so laser focused on age. And I read something that was like horrifying that even at 35, when you get ready to transition into a different employment, situation, it's not even counted as, look, you have 35, you at least 25 of those are, various experiences you have. That that age that you have is not seen as being wisdomous or having a lot of good. It's considered now you're on the bottom part of the hill where you're going down, cognitive decline. Like those things do concern me. I would say that barring disability, barring being black, barring being a woman,
Hmm.
the ageism is just so messed up, for lack of a better
Gotcha.
word.
Mm,
It is, people are nuts, about, can you do stuff?
right.
And I do have that too. Can you do stuff based on my disability? There's some limiting beliefs that people have about what I'm able to do.
Mm,
But the ageism is the issues around that, people are honestly tripping.
nah, sure.
Even at 40 something, you're questioning people's ability and capacity to do a
Right.
job, and
It's
it's
like,
just so
it's like, how do you
ridiculous.
think they got here, right? Like, you've gone
Yeah.
this far.
And surely they have a lot of experience. Why would you, think about that as a detriment over,
Right.
other
Right.
things?
Right.
So
Right.
that would probably be the saddest thing to me. So it wouldn't be disability, it wouldn't be being a woman or being black. It would
Got
be
you.
that you're starting to look at my age, and I'm not even 50, as some
Mm,
kind of problematic
yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
do the position. So that is a little sad.
shows you that there's still lots of work to be done, but at the same time, encourage at what we've gone so this far. And so I think
Yes.
that for me is positive. I'm happy to hear. Trace, I've really sort of appreciated the insights that you share with us here today, and
Thank you.
really taking away. I mean, for me, I oftentimes think about the things I take away and walk away and think about after these conversations, and just hearing, finding that purpose and that passion, and falling
Yes.
back to that is so key and so important, and
Mhm.
being able to move yourself forward. And so, thank you for sharing that. For our
Thank
listeners that
you.
want to learn more about you or connect with you, where can we send them?
Yeah, just go to my website at traceegarner.com. Tracy is spelled with two E's, Tracee, Garner, no D, .com. And I'd love to connect with people. They can send me a note. I'm also active on Facebook and Instagram at my full name, Tracy Lydia Garner. And it's been awesome. Thanks so much again for having me.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much again for the insights. Have been valuable. Perspective, you can never have too much perspective because that goes a long way increasing our understanding. We talk about
Yes.
how it can help and aid with our being more empathetic as individuals. So again, I
Hmm.
appreciate you for that. All the best and
Absolutely.
take care. Back we are here on the podcast. In today's conversation with Tracy, she reminds us that no matter the obstacles we face, our true strength lies within our ability to persevere and pursue our passions with unwavering dedication. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience and the impact of living authentically despite life's challenges. To learn more about Tracy and her inspiring work, I'd encourage you to connect with her directly. And of course, as always, the contact details are in the show notes below. Certainly reach out and be inspired by her journey of triumph over adversities. So Tracy, thank you so much. And just so you know, to our listeners, she's offering a special discount on her latest book, Pack Light Thoughts for the Journey, for all of our listeners. And again, those details of how you can avail yourself of the exclusive offer is also available in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to the Audacious Living podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episodes, please follow and share and help this podcast reach even more listeners and continue inspiring others to live their best audacious lives. Remember, every step towards audacity is a step towards greatness. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.